Good afternoon. My name is Shu. This is Key and Jun, and today we'll be presenting our design for Sydney in 2050. So a brief overview of the city right now. Sydney, New South Wales, Australia is the largest city in Australia, located in the southeast. And the area we're looking at, Greater Sydney, is actually composed of multiple local government areas, as you can see in the map. And the downtown area, or Sydney, is actually in the harbour there in the east. The total population of Greater Sydney is about 5 million. And as for density, while there are some areas such as the downtown that are fairly dense, the overall density of Greater Sydney is actually fairly low, only about 400 people per square kilometre. It's also important to note that Sydney is in a relatively warm climate, and winter temperature rarely goes below 8 degrees Celsius. So here are some key existing infrastructure plans. The city has a plan to phase out the use of coal by 2030, and this is actually pretty significant because the city is very dependent on coal for its electricity generation. As for water, right now the average water use is about 293 liters per capita per day, and this is supplied from 7 major dams along various waterways in the area. The city has a few waste management programs where they're trying to divert waste from landfills, and right now the average diversion rate is about 51%. And finally, the government has many plans to improve various aspects of its transportation, and hopefully to reduce the number of car trips to the city center. And this is actually fairly significant because you notice the CBD is in the blue and towards the far east of the city, and the rest of the city sort of sprawls to the west. And so people are traveling very long distances, traveling a long time to get to where they want to go. So there is a development plan called Towards a Greater City 2056, and they want to sort of develop Sydney into a more polycentric city with additional centers, for example, around the airport in the west or in the center in addition to the east, and develop what they call a metropolis of 3 cities. And hopefully this is basically to encourage more development to the west, to push the land use development there, and bring people closer to where they work. So the population of Sydney will reach about 8 million in 2050, which is 3 million more than it is right now. So we need a vision for how to appropriately account for this development. We want to move Sydney towards a more connected city, so basically facilitating movement and making it easier for people to get around. In especially the current sprawling urban sprawl nature and very auto-centric focus, we want to promote other things, modes such as walking and cycling and public transportation. And we took inspiration from other cities that did this really well, such as Copenhagen. And also we want to move Sydney towards being a more green city, a city that uses less energy, water, produces less waste, greenhouse gas emissions. And also a city that is built in a more sustainable form. And for Sydney, that means really a lot of densification. So look at Barcelona as a city that did densification very, very well.
I will continue by talking about the land use in 2050. So the population in 2050 is around 8 million, and the population density is around 640 people per square kilometer. But in CBD area, the population density is already beyond 4,000 people per square kilometer, and the commercial activities are concentrated in CBD area. So according to the land use map designed by the team, we will want a shift of commercial activity towards western area. And as you can see on the map, there's a yellow area in the middle of the Great Sydney represents a new commercial center that will happen in 2015. And we encourage mixed land use, which will encourage people to work and live in west direction, and potential major centers will spread outside the CBD area, and public transportation will spread southward and westward to also support our mixed land use and land use shift. And here comes to our transportation. Generally, there are 7 modes of transportation in Sydney. In our report, we focus more on railway, buses, bus rails, walking and cycling. And the current transportation network can be considered as radio. So our goal is to make the network connected. And encouraging more people to use public transit is our major objective because rails and light rails have higher capacity compared with automobiles. And firstly, we propose to expand more railway trains in 2050. Here are the two proposed railway line examples in 2050. The first one is connecting the two existing lines and extending to the central area of Brazil, and the second one is expanding southward. Secondly, our major goal for light rail is to incorporate light rails in current public transit systems. So we propose to replace buses with light rails where the bus routes are densely distributed, but avoid the duplicating of bus routes. We expect public transit can be more efficient and have less congestion because light rails have 5 times the capacity of the buses. And here comes to the walking and bicycle pathways. As you can see on the map, the red dots represent the strategic and potential major centers in 2050. So the bicycle infrastructures will be focused more on these centers because these centers have higher possibilities to encourage people to cycle and walk. And this land use plan will also need to cooperate in order to create more short distance trips. And here comes to our neighborhood design. This is a sample neighborhood we designed with SketchUp, and in this neighborhood there are 250 houses and 3 condo buildings, and has population density of 256 people per hectare. And it has through transit in the neighborhood, and also has surrounded public transit outside corridors. And the total area, 42% of total area accounts for the open space, includes green space as well as the blue space. And elementary schools, community centers were located in the middle, and reservoirs are designed mainly for scenery and improvement of resilience. And also this neighborhood design takes the community energy storage into practice, which means when the community has the electricity blackout, the energy storage will take the responsibility to supply for the energy of the neighborhood. And it can also be used when to store energy during the low price period and supply the neighborhood during high price period. And all the designs will support the spirit and active communities. And here comes to the building codes recommendations. Generally, we have some recommendations related to the elements shown on the table, and we suggest there need to be more numerical limitations about these elements in order to better guide the building design. And we have 3 building strategies in order to reduce energy consumption. The first one is multi-use residential buildings. These types of buildings usually have commercials at the ground floor and have high population density on up floors. So these type of buildings can easily to use power generation, which means we have energy generation plants that will provide heating, power, and cooling together. And the second one is cool-roofing technology. This one because currently Brazil has more cooling degree days than higher degree days. So there are more energy used for air cooling than air heating. So we are going to implement cooling roofs in order to reduce energy absorbed by buildings. And the third one is electronic smart glass. So the light transmission will be altered using the electricity, and by taking reasonable advantage of solar natural gas, solar energy, There will be energy consumption reduced in the respect to lighting, air cooling, and different areas, and all the energy reduced will be detailed talked about in energy section.
And so for water use, we want to lower the per capita water use from the current 293 to 225 liters per capita per day in 2050. And this will be done through promoting policies and programs to increase science efficiency, reduce water leakage, and general smarter use of water overall. With a population of 8 million, that'll be a total water requirement of about 1.8 billion liters per day. There is a limit onto how much water can be safely drawn from the reservoir, so we need to supplement that water from additional sources, one of which is desalination. So the Kernel desalination plant in Sydney will be operational and expanded to produce about 500 million liters of water per day. Also, recycled water is very important. Recycled water being water that is wastewater that's been treated to a degree where you can use it for things like watering your garden, but you can't drink it. And so Sydney already has sort of a separate network indicated by the purple types to distribute recycled water. And so increasing recycled water capacity will reduce the need for fresh drinking water. As for waste, in 2050 there will be about 200 million tons of waste produced, and we want to make sure as much of this as possible does not end up in the landfill. So we want to achieve a waste diversion rate of at least a minimum of 65% across all areas in Greater Sydney. And how we'll be doing this is by sending the waste through some advanced treatment, where they basically, before it's sent to the landfill, they separate out organics, electronics, and other recyclables. And also we'll be utilizing technologies to capture the gases and produce a renewable source of natural gas, and so actually tie into the energy system.
Next, I'm going to bring up some figures to show how our strategy is going to reduce energy consumption and CO2 in 2050. We figure out transportation, electricity supply, and residential section are the main section for energy consumption. In 2050, although the total energy consumption doesn't reduce a lot, however, the composition of energy supply turns to be more sustainable and cleaner. For transportation, we expect more electrical vehicles will be used in 2050. And as Key mentioned, we propose more public transit system cover both suburban area and urban area. And we hope the traveling mode will shift to walking and bicycling. Recently, two Chinese bike share companies proposed a very innovative solution to synthesize biking with existing public transit system to solve the first and last mile problem. To reduce the electricity supply, except for we're going to involve more renewable energy. We also propose tri-generation. It can recycle the renewable gas from the waste. So compared to traditional coal generation, it provides cooling, heating, and power at one power plant, and it also reduces the chemical pollutant to improve the air quality. For residential section, except for those retrofit strategy to upgrade the building envelopes, we also want to incorporate more requirements of sustainable building materials and the construction management standard to reduce the waste during construction period. Here is our estimate for greenhouse gas emission in 2050. The yellow star denotes the aggressive target of City of Sydney. However, we propose more conservative strategy, which will end up a similar number by 2050, which is end up to about 45 megatons. So our number is about 40% decrease compared to the 2016 benchmark, and about 60% reduction compared to the business as usual case. So we adopt the estimation model from City of Sydney, and for building section, the CO2 reduction will end up to about 65%. For transportation, we shift the proportion of automobile use to public transit and bicycle use, and the CO2 reduction will end up to about 45%. And for power supply, since in 2050 we eliminate all the coal power plants, the reduction of carbon dioxide is quite remarkable, since coal is a quite dirty power source, and the energy source will split into about 40 and 60, in 40% of renewables and 60 of natural gas power generation in 2050. Here is our urban metabolism diagram. Some highlights in 2016. Sydney really used renewable energies, and it's highly dependent on coal power generation. And here is our 2050 urban metabolism diagram. As we can see, we use more energy from solar and other renewable energy, and we totally eliminate the coal power plant. And for the waste, the loop is closed. So since we use the waste for our power generation plant. So to sum up, our strategies line up with the Sustainable Development Goal 11 target proposed by 9 nations to make city a safer, inclusive, consistent, and sustainable place. And our transportation plan covers both urban and suburban areas to provide successful and sustainable transport for all citizens. And our water treatment master plan provides a boost the resilience to the disasters, and our air quality and waste management plan to reduce the negative impact to cities. And in a nutshell, our strategies provide a strong link between society, environment, and economics to make Sydney a prosperous, more sustainable city in 2050. And that's our presentation. Thank you.